1, a 2, a 1.
It's time for the Better Horses Radio Show. So let's saddle up and ride as we explore the Western way of life, horses and cows, family and friends, a relationship with the land, and a relationship with God. It's all here on Better Horses Radio. Now let's hit the trails with the Better Horses team.
Welcome to Better Horses Radio. Really glad you joined us for this week for another exciting talk all about the horse industry. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And together we're going to get together and talk about all these exciting things. Merle, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me back again this week, Ed.
You know what? We're getting into the fall weather. You know what I love about this? And it's the little things about being around the barn. The wild rag. I just love wearing the wild rags around here because it's so cool in the mornings now. So we really enjoy that.
It's a little brisk. I've been shutting the barn up at night, keeping everything warm, but it's you can tell fall is in the air for sure.
You know, we got a lot of things going on. We want to thank the Color Breed Congress for sponsoring the Better Horses coming up 2024, the Color Breed Congress on November 1st through the 9th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we have a great lineup coming your way, starting with Rodney Glenn, president of the BFA World Championship, going into his fourth year. This is going to be the Barrel for Charity of America World Championship. It's going to be held at the Lazy E Arena in Guthrie, Oklahoma. And Merle, we've got Rodney coming in. It's going to walk us through everything.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about that. We also have Dr. Dylan Luter, the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. He is a clinical associate professor and a large animal emergency clinician. He's going to talk to us today about equine performance in medicine and surgery.
And you know what? Coming from the president of the PHBA, the Palomino Horse Breeders Association, Gene Ray Stewart. He's also a professional trainer, and he's going to walk us through what it's like to be a part of the Palomino Horse Breeders Association and also how to train these horses and getting into the shows. But before we get started, let's start us off with what we do every week, is start with our Better Cattle Market Update with our very own Mark Oppold. Mark?
Well, Ed, thank you very much. Great to be kicking off another great program here. I love the lineup that you've got in store for our viewers and listeners. But let's get to work here looking at the live cattle and the feeder cattle trade as we move through this second week of October. Of course, that longshoreman strike hanging over the market here a week ago. No doubt that chilled beef shipments will be affected here no matter what. But again, with the commodity fund traders, markets getting a lot of money inflow since the Federal Reserve rate cut here a couple of weeks ago. We think that's kind of been offsetting any negative sentiment here in the trade. Again, we've estimated that strike did cost about $5 billion per day here from Maine down through Texas. Well, look at the live cattle futures December. They've been able, last week, if you remember, they were able to close over 185.5, the December live cattle. That was a pretty key number when it did that. I believe last Tuesday, Wednesday, over 185.5, and consecutive closes there will now head us toward the July highs, 189.40. Now, support, by the way, down there at 183. Before we get too excited here, we're always optimists and bullish here in these markets, but the cattle, December live cattle futures look a bit overbought to many, and that strike, the wild card in here for now. Packers, we think maybe looking at cutting kills again this week rather than pay up for cattle. They're a little bit nervous, I think, in here as well. By the way, watching the show list each week, and I want to go back to last week, looking at the show list. Texas show lists were up about 600 head from the previous week. Nebraska, Colorado show lists up 1,300, but Kansas stood out. Didn't see a lot of people talking about this, but we certainly noticed that Kansas show lists were down nearly 7,000 last week from the previous week. So watching that here again this week and how that might rebound. We look over at the November feeder cattle, and many think that looks overbought as well. We're not economists here, but just reading a lot of folks who think that might be overbought. Support on November down at the 243 level, and if that doesn't hold, then 242 would be next. Again, looking at higher in here, the 247.5. first level on the upside, 248, would be pretty heavy resistance after that. We still see a lot of activity, bidding up for these cattle at weekly auctions. We keep in touch with our friends at Superior Livestock, and they've had very active last week of September and the first 10 days here of October with their sales as well. We hope that's helpful, and as always, wish everyone a profitable week ahead.
Hey, thanks, Mark. I appreciate all the updates you have on the cattle industry and also about the agricultural community. And now, keeping it going, we're going to give us our own horse tip of the week with Susie Arbo. Susie?
Thanks, Ed. Susie Arbo here with your horse tip of the week. With fall officially here and the temperatures starting to drop, one of the big questions is, should I blanket my horse? It's important to consider a few factors before making that decision, especially if you're planning to show your horse or they'll be out in the pasture all winter. First, remember that horses are naturally built to handle the cold. They grow thick winter coats to help them keep warm, especially if they aren't clipped for the shows. But if your horse is older and has a thinner coat or is clipped for competition, a blanket might be necessary to keep them comfortable. However, if you decide to blanket, remember that you'll need to continue blanketing throughout the winter. Their bodies need this time to develop that winter coat, and blanketing now can prevent them from growing the thick hair that they'll need later on. Another thing to consider is that your horse, if it's out in the pasture and it starts to rain or snow, a blanket can actually prevent them from warming up. And a wet blanket holds moisture, making it difficult for your horse to dry off, while their natural hair would shed the water and fluff up to keep them warm. So if you're blanketing a horse that spends a lot of time outside, be sure to monitor the weather closely and remove the blanket if it becomes wet. So think about your horse's lifestyle and whether they'll need that extra protection this season. It's all about balance and making sure they're comfortable without disrupting their natural ability to handle the colder temperatures. Well, that's it for this week's horse tip. I hope you find it as helpful as we head into these cooler months. Now I'll kick it back over to Ed and Merle to keep things rolling. Stay tuned for a great show right here on Better Horses.
And if that doesn't get us started, I don't know what will. Merle, this is going to be another exciting show. I want everybody to stay with us as we talk about more about Better Horses. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
Routine dental examination and treatments are essential for high-quality horse care. To prevent potential problems, a horse's mouth should be examined at least once a year. I'm Dr. Chris Blevins, Equine Field Service Veterinarian at Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. We can examine the mouth and provide a treatment plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
2024 is not over, so let's ride to the finest horse show of the year, the Color Breed Congress, beginning November 1st through the 9th in Tulsa, Oklahoma, located at the Ford Livestock Complex. With over 600 classes, all levels, all disciplines, and all breeds, including the long-ear classes, can enter with no qualifications required. Cash and prizes to be won. The Color Breed Congress, a family-friendly environment with a good taste of healthy competition. For more information, go to colorbreedcongress.com. The Color Breed Congress in Tulsa.
This is the Agricultural Law and Tax Report. I'm Roger McOwen. With an expense method depreciation election, you can deduct all or part of the income tax basis of your farm machinery and equipment and other types of qualified property in the year the items are placed in service. But there's a potential trap that can apply to farm landlords that is often overlooked. I'll be back in a moment to discuss.
Buying and selling farm, construction, and fleet equipment has never been easier than it is with Purple Wave Auction, a global marketplace free of reserves and hidden fees. It's the place to go to buy or sell heavy equipment. Get started today, purplewave.com. Truck accidents are on the rise. David Rabine at RBR3.com comes from rural America and has dedicated his life to helping families recover from personal injury accidents. Other lawyers refer their clients. Learn more, RBR3.com.
Expense method depreciation can be claimed on machinery and equipment, as well as purchased breeding stock, pickup trucks, and business automobiles. It can also be claimed on tile lines, fences, feeding floors, grain bins, and silos. However, for a non-corporate landlord that leases tangible personal property to a tenant, including the landlord's own entity, and wants to claim expense method depreciation on the leased property, the landlord must make sure the lease is properly structured. The lease term must be less than half of the class life of the property involved. That means the lease must be in writing. The term of an oral farm lease is perpetual, automatically renewing from year to year if notice to terminate is not given. That rule burned an Iowa farmer to the tune of about $100,000. He orally leased his farm equipment to his corporation and tried to claim expense method depreciation. Also, during the first 12 months of the lease, business expenses related to the leased property must exceed 15% of the rental income the property produces. This rule can influence the amount of rent charged under the lease. This has been the Agricultural Law and Tax Report. I'm Roger McOwen.
And welcome back to Better Horses Radio. I'm your host, Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And, we get to continue to talk about the equine world. And you know what, Merle, this is going to be kind of exciting because, as promised at the beginning of the show, we talked about a lot of disciplines. We talked about barrel racing. But, in this case, we get to talk about a different type of barrel racing. And it's actually been in business for a long time. And it's got dedicated, called the BFA, Barrel Futurities of America. This is something that you and I talked about when we had the BBR not too long ago in Oklahoma City. So, hey, before we get our next guest on here, I want to let everybody know that the following segment is brought to you by Kansas State University and their own Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine. And with that in mind, we've got a interesting topic that we'd like to talk to you about called the BFA of History. This is the Barrel Futurities of America. Now, Merle, I don't know if you know this, but this started in Joshua, Texas, and it was the first barrel racing futurity that was produced by the Texas Barrel Racing Association. Wow. Now, fast forward that in 1980, the Barrel Racing Futurity of America was established, and the leadership and the guidance of the barrel racing futurity in the industry really got a hold. But then there was a lady by the name of Florence Uri, and she was a barrel racing icon. And she's been in the industry for a very long time. And she stepped up as president of the BFA. Now, Miss Uri had a vision to produce a BFA World Championship in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, that would attract the largest number of barrel racers and compete with really big payouts. So in 1986, this vision became a reality. When in Oklahoma City hosted the inaugural event, and then 35 years later, the BFA World Championship has grown to be one of the top events and competitors for all those top athletic horses that we have. Now, joining us today, the president of the BFA World Championship, going on his fourth year, our gentleman by the name of Rodney Glenn. Rodney, welcome to Better Horses.
Thank you very much.
Now, Rodney, we just set you up here on the 2024 Barrel Futurity of America World Championship that's going to be held at the Lazy E Arena in Guthrie, Oklahoma. There's going to be November 16th through the 23rd. But I think what we really want to know is, how did you get in to be president, and what's the payout, and what's the challenges of being president of the BFA?
Well, my father-in-law, Charles Brock, he was the BFA president 10 to 12 years before my time, and he had a legacy there. He got a bunch of new things started. Both of our kids competed at the BFA, in the youth, and moved up into the Derby and fraternity classes that we have. And I just wanted to carry on, what he kind of got started and built. There was a president between him and myself, which is Jimmy Roper, that did an outstanding job as well.
Do I have this correct when I say this, is that in 2023, the BFA paid out $1.3 million in cash prizes just for that event alone.
That is correct.
And going into 2024, can you talk about the guidelines when you say the maturity of America, what the age groups with the horses and what type of horses you're attracting?
So we have a 4-year-old futurity, which that's the big race. That's the one that's got the $70,000 added money. That is for 4-year-olds only, and they start competing after November 15th of 2023, and they compete all year long at different futurities throughout the nation, and then they come to our World Championship show here coming up here in a few weeks. And we also have a 5-year-old futurity that we've added the last couple of years. That will be a separate race as well. Same deal is they're 5-year-olds. Then we have a race called the juvenile race, which that attracts a lot of contestants as well. And these are 3-year-old horses that haven't competed yet. And the BFA will be their first competition race. So that's pretty exciting to watch these young horses, come into the Lazy Arena and be their first race. Along with the juvenile, we have a super stakes race, which is a 3-year-old as well. And this will be their very first run in an arena at all. And that's for a $100,000 payout.
Wow. That's awesome. Rodney, with the 2024 event making the 39th annual BFA World Championships, what do you think has made this event such a staple in the barrel racing community? I mean, that's a long time.
Man, I think it's the people that are on board with the BFA. Our membership is good. Our membership understands what our goals are and what we try to do. We kind of keep everything the same. We're not, changing around from year to year. We try to keep it, this is what we do. And everybody knows what we do. And I think everybody likes the stability there, so they know what they're getting into.
Sure.
Rodney, we talked about it, and I want to make the distinction. There's a difference also located in Oklahoma City, the BBR, the Better Barrel Racers. But this is the BFA World Championship we're talking about. Any association or any type of threading in between those two groups?
No, we're all friends. The BBR, it's Better Barrel Races, obviously, but they concentrate more on the open, the everyday rider. You go from professionals all the way down to the very, the amateur, and all the way down to the kids as well. So they've got any aged horses. It could be a 4-year-old or a 14-year-old. So ours is age limited. Theirs is not age limited. Now they do have some classes that offer, futurity horses, which, be back to age specific, and derby horses as well. Just like what we do, but their biggest concentration is the all-aged horses.
Well, and Rodney, this event's coming up pretty quick, and I'm sure some of our Better Horses listeners are out there maybe thinking about, well, I'd like to go watch or maybe even compete, and maybe it's too late to get your entries in. But you know what? Do you have any advice for some first-time participants?
Number one, get on the website, and it will explain to you, how it all works and the different classes that we have. Now, for entering this year, in the futurity, it's already too late, but we have 2 days of open entries that, and that's an any aged horse that they could enter them at the show, open, but they can't enter the futurity or the juvenile or the derby at the show. They have to pre-enter all that all year long. You make, nomination, then you make payments, every few months.
Sure.
But getting on the website would be the best advice, or getting with the secretary of the show, Cindy Arnold. She's got very good information and can explain somebody that's never done this before and walk you step by step in the procedures that has to happen.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to the president of the BFA World Championship, Rodney Glenn. And Rodney, you mentioned that you're going to have some pretty young horses going through here. It gets pretty ranchy there for a while then. I'm going to assume this is a great visual and fun to go see here beginning November 16th through the 23rd at the Lazy E Arena in Guthrie.
That is correct, and it's free to get in. You can come in and watch it all day long or at night when we're having the show as well. But yeah, it's all free. There's no admission whatsoever, so you can come and go as you please.
Perfect. And if they wanted to get more information on the BFA World Championship, can you guide us on where to go?
I would go to our BFA website, bfaworld.com.
Perfect. Rodney, we appreciate you coming on board and walking us through. First of all, as president of the BFA World Championship, I got to give you the kudos here of actually doing it. And I don't think, Merle, we give enough accolades to all the presidents of these organizations because I don't think Rodney's doing this for the salary.
It's a thankless job, but I know he must love what he does.
So, Rodney, we want to thank you for doing this. And actually, more importantly, thank you for educating us on the BFA World Championship. It's been around for a very long time. We want to thank you and everybody before you who have continued to keep this going.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
And Merle, I want everybody to stay with us. We're going to have Dr. Dylan Luter come on board as we're going to talk about lameness. Want everybody to stay with us on Better Horses. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
And we'll be right back right after these messages. And welcome back to Better Horses. Always glad you're staying with us as we talk all about horses. And Merle, this time we get an education check just on the medicine and the care and custody of horses.
Oh, yeah. It's always good to have Dr. Luter back, and we're going to find out a little more about what we didn't know.
And you know what? Before we start this segment, I want to let everybody know that the following segment's been brought to you by the Color Breed Congress. That is going to be the 2024 Color Breed Congress. It's going to take place November 1st through the 9th in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I know this is going to be something exciting. It's probably the last major horse show you can get in before the end of the year.
Yeah, you aren't going to want to miss that.
So coming up, and we have somebody that we really appreciate from the Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, Dr. Dylan Luter. Dr. Dylan Luter, thank you for joining Better Horses.
Hey, great to talk to you guys today. Thanks for having me back on.
We just got through talking about barrel racing, and we talked about, all about the shows that are coming up. But, everybody deals with this, and we're going to talk about lameness for just a minute with our horses and the first steps you take when you do have lameness. And this is something that's in your wheelhouse. So can you kind of walk us through on some of the things we got to look out for, and what's the best way before we call our vet to take a look at where to find the problem when you're looking at lameness?
Yeah, a couple of great questions there. I think from a horse owner standpoint, when you are trying to determine, is my horse lame or is there some other problem? I think it first starts off with identifying, ask yourself what actually is going on. Is it I actually see my horse limping, which is definitely an indication of lameness and that needs to get checked out? Or is it something that, my horse isn't turning the barrel hard enough or isn't clocking as well as it used to, maybe even just 0.2 of a second off? Could be caused by a lameness problem, could be caused by lots of other problems too. But so just really try to think about what is actually going on. And then if we're going to try to identify, is there actual lameness? This is something that takes a trained eye and lots of practice, and different people have different eyes for lameness. Some come by it, some are better, some trainers and owners are better than I am, because they know how their horse moves so well. But I don't know if you want to get into identifying lameness and what you look for there or not, but just having a good sense of what the problem is or what's bugging you is a good place to start.
Sure. And Dr. Luter, one of the maybe scariest things you can see as a horse owner, if a horse is three-legged lame, meaning they're non-weight bearing on a leg. Can you talk about possible causes? And a lot of times, the first time it happened to me, I was like, oh no, it broke its leg, and it actually ended up being an abscess. So could you walk us through maybe how do you differentiate between an abscess or a broken leg?
Oh yeah, no, this is a great thing to talk about because There are 5 causes of what I would call a non-weight bearing lameness or a toe touching lameness, which an abscess is absolutely one of them. But the other 4 are potentially life threatening, and one of them's a fracture. One of them is an infected joint, be that because of a wound or because of a puncture, or horses can even get infected joints because of bacteria in the blood decides to land in the joint. And then another cause is a ruptured tendon or ligament. And so because of that, because all of those are so serious, a non-weight bearing lameness is a 5-alarm emergency. And to try to, and so whenever an owner, I guess, that calls me up and says, "Hey, my horse is just toe touching lame, can you see him?" In my mind, I'm doing everything I can to get that horse in as fast as I can, or to get out to him if we're talking mobile practice. But basically, when we're examining the horse, we start by palpating the affected leg. We feel the tendons, we feel the bones, we take the joints through its normal range of motion. We feel for what are called digital pulses. So you feel the arteries down by the horse's hoof and feel if the pulse is increased in that area. We look for swelling and heat in the area, and if it's how far it's extending. And then we get out our hoof testers, which I'm sure you guys have seen before, and many of your listeners have as well. But they're these quite honestly, they're kind of medieval looking instruments with these big jaws, and they clamp down on the hoof. But all we're doing is selectively applying pressure to the hoof capsule in certain areas to see where the horse winces at. And for an abscess specifically, you can usually narrow it down to a very precise place to where, like, oh, that spot hurts the most, so that's where I'm going to use my hoof knife and try to open that up. Versus like if a horse has a P3 fracture down within the hoof capsule, maybe the entire hoof is just going to be on fire and light up. And so there are, sometimes you got to go into more like diagnostics and nerve blocks, but that's our initial physical exam, trying to sort things out. Also, I forgot to say, looking for any sort of joint swelling that we can palpate for. So
yeah.
I've always been fascinated by this because I've always been told, now this could be one of those things that are not true, but 70% of all lameness is in the hoof. Always start there. And so the question I have that is kind of interesting is, what about going into fall, grass foundering and foundering on the horse? What's the best way to find it? I've seen, go through all your 5 steps of abscesses and infectious joints and tendons and basically everything else on digital pulses. But how can you fast tell a foundering when the horse is really, really sensitive in the front?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I think so. I listed my 5 conditions earlier. Laminitis would be number 6.
Okay.
And it's a great time of year for it. I had a handful of cases last week that came in exactly like that. And so laminitis is oftentimes different than those other 5 major categories because it is often more than one leg, and we often think about it being both front legs, or a horse can founder have laminitis in all 4 legs. But we're going to start off and we're going to feel for those bounding digital pulses. We're going to feel for heat in the hoof capsule. Hoof testing is very valuable, and a laminitic horse will typically be more sensitive in the entire toe area as opposed to just like one specific spot in the toe. And then the horse will either stand or walk with this very classic rocked back appearance where they're overloading their hindquarters, trying to unload their laminitic front end. It looks like they're hitting the brakes and then a slide, but they're just standing still in the stall, and they really are sore when they're turning either direction. And so those are all things that really start to tell me, hey, this horse might be having a laminitic episode. And at that point is when I say, we need to look at getting some foot x-rays and see what degree of changes are there.
From a care and custody standpoint, if you suspect that, what's the first thing you should be doing?
Well, I think the first thing is, besides calling your vet, is and just let them know what's going on, because then they'll guide you a little bit more closely and help you gauge how serious this is. Like, is this a horse that's never had this before? Is this a horse that, like, has historically every fall and every spring gets a laminitic flare, and your relationship with your vet is going to dictate like the magnitude of response. Like, do we need to pay the $500 emergency fee so that we can be seen right away, or can I talk to my vet and get this horse comfortable overnight and maybe see him in the morning, sort of thing? I think that's beyond that. I think it's too case specific probably to make too many recommendations, but we're thinking about things like keep the horse still, bring him up out of the pasture, into the stall, make sure they have plenty of fresh water, plenty of deep bedding, so that it's cushiony for their feet, but also so that they can lay down if they want to. Sometimes the only thing that saves a horse's life when they have laminitis is the fact that it's smart enough to lay down, and just take the pressure off those feet. And then I think oftentimes once you're comfortable and your vet's comfortable with what's going on, getting some pain medication on board for them. But really that's up to each individual horse, because there's risks with giving bute and too much bute and things like that. So I don't want to like say too much beyond that and make recommendations, but
sure.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to Dr. Dylan Luter of the Kansas State University Veterinarian Health Center. And just before we wrap it up, I just wanted to tag up with you. And, colicking is always a big conversation. I'm going to switch gears real quick before you wrap it up. Can you kind of give us your thoughts on that and some of the things of prevention we can do and to make sure that doesn't happen, especially while we're traveling to all these shows?
Yeah, well, colic is always an important topic. The biggest thing with a lot of episodes of colic is are changes in routine, what interrupt the changes in the normal GI motility. And so just preparing the horse with plenty of water, and making sure if they've been out on pasture, making sure they have some sort of exercise if they're going into a stall, or if they just are in a stall and maybe you're hauling, getting them out and allowing them to move is a big thing. So water, electrolytes, drinking plenty, and getting some motion is probably the biggest thing when you're talking about hauling horses or changing their settings. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. As a matter of fact, we want everybody to know this is Dr. Dylan Luter at the Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine. Dr. Luter, thank you for joining us. Merle, this is my favorite time because we don't get an invoice after we're done here. So that's the free veterinarian work is always great, if you know what I mean. So always appreciate Dr. Dylan Luter joining us here on Better Horses. I want everyone to stay with us as we've got more Better Horses coming your way. I'm Ed Adams, and we'll be right back right after these messages.
Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine at the Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Visit us at ksvhc.org, the Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Hi, I'm Tommy with Heritage Tractor. Whether you're looking to maintain your yard or your whole ranching operation, Heritage Tractor has John Deere mower and tractor packages that make work fly by. With a variety of horsepower and attachment configurations, we have a package to best fit your needs and budget. To learn more about these exclusive packages, visit us in store or online at heritagetractor.com.
Legendary products, extraordinary service, that's our heritage.
Established in 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered Pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website PintoWorld.com.
Get quality you can stand on. Hoof Grip is the proprietary formula that provides shock absorption for your animals with no ice buildup, slipping, cracking, or sogginess, making it the safest, most comfortable, and maintenance-free flooring on the market. Hoof Grip installs quickly and easily over existing surfaces, is easy to clean, and withstands extreme heat or cold. From vet offices to barns, wash racks to trailers and more. Visit hoofgrip.com to find a dealer in your area today.
We're here for the hardworking, the resilient. We're for the people who measure their days by what needs to get done, not by hours. Where kids learn responsibility at a young age and generations work side by side. Where work doesn't pause for holidays or bad weather. It just gets harder. Where value and hard work means more than the clothes you wear. We're Kleinschmidt's Western Store, Higginsville, Missouri.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes a barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
2024 is not over, so let's ride to the finest horse show of the year, the Colored Breed Congress, beginning November 1st through the 9th in Tulsa, Oklahoma, located at the Ford Livestock Complex. With over 600 classes, all levels, all disciplines, and all breeds, including the long-ear classes, can enter with no qualifications required. Cash and prizes to be won. The Colored Breed Congress, a family-friendly environment with a good taste of healthy competition. For more information, go to colorbreedcongress.com. The Colored Breed Congress in Tulsa.
Welcome back to Better Horses. We're happy to have you here with us today, and I'm your co-host, Merle Arbo.
And I'm Ed Adams.
And we are getting ready to talk to the PHB president. But first, Ed, we want to say a special shout out to our sponsor of this segment.
You know, really appreciate all our sponsors here on Better Horses, but more importantly, if you're looking for a John Deere, always look for Heritage Tractor, going in Arkansas, Kansas, or Oklahoma. For all of your John Deere needs, whether it's for the construction or for lawn and garden, check out heritagetractor.com.
Well, and Ed, you know, the presidential election is coming up, and it wouldn't be like Better Horses if we didn't do a presidential show. So
that's a great segue. I got to tell you, that is just perfect for you. Good job.
Better, you know. But join us today is Gene Ray Stewart. He's the president of the Palomino Horse Breeders of America. Gene Ray has been a driving force in promoting and preserving the beautiful Palomino breed, and under his leadership, PHBA continues to thrive, supporting both breeders and enthusiasts alike. So I'd like to welcome Gene Ray Stewart to our show today.
Hey, thank you, Merle. Appreciate you having me on today, for sure.
Oh, thanks for being on. Can you tell us what initially drew you to PHBA?
You know, I started training horses some 25 odd years ago. And got some Palominos in the barn, and had some really good customers, and wound up really enjoying going to their horse shows and the family atmosphere that we had and we still have, and we promote to this day. We just have a lot of fun with our Palomino horses and our Palomino bred horses now that are coming on strong. We just, it was I had some really good customers that wanted to show Palomino, and it worked out for me. Now my family and my wife and kids all showed Palomino as well, and just made it kind of a good transition into a wonderful association that we can all be proud of.
You know, Gene, I've always been fascinated by the PHBA and exactly what kind of breed qualifies, and exactly it's not necessarily the pure breed, but can you walk us through exactly what qualifies and what doesn't when you go into the PHBA?
Well, the big thing is the color of Palomino. For the most part, our horses now are stock horses, either apps or quarter horses, and also paints that do not have as much white, because we do have white rules as far as that goes. But the association started with the saddle horses, the Palomino saddle horses and the parade horses and everything from California, where the association actually started before it moved to Hempstead, Texas, and then after that it moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. There's not as many saddle type horses anymore in the association, but there are a few still out there. So the main part is our stock horses, which would be the quarter horses, and quarter horses, apps, and paints alike.
And it's really fascinating how you have some famous people coming on board. I know Terry Bradshaw is a big proponent on what you're doing out there, and having somebody like him promote the event, that's kind of a game changer over there for the PHBA. Would you say?
Oh, absolutely. The last 3 or 4 years have been just amazing with Terry and his wonderful wife, and he's brought a lot of good things into PHBA. I think we raised this year alone. I think that one afternoon, Merle, we raised right at 14 or 15,000 for the youth kids.
Yeah.
By Terry throwing balls at people and us auctioning off a few things, and it's always good to have somebody of his stature at the horse shows, and he brings a kind of a good breath of air to everything we do, and he's having really good luck showing as well. So I mean, and he very much enjoys coming to those horse shows and showing, and he will tell you that PHBA World Show and PHBA shows in general are his favorite places to go.
Well, and Gene Ray, I don't think it's a secret that you and I have been around a little bit. Actually, we got our PHBA judges cards the same year. Do you remember that?
Absolutely, yeah, sure did.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago?
It was a couple.
Yeah.
Tell you the truth, I'd have to look back and see how long it has been, Mo.
Yeah. Well, no, and I just wanted to say, like you've seen a lot develop and change over the years in PHBA, and can you talk about what changes you've seen and something special too? And we kind of alluded to it earlier, is our youth programs, and we had a really strong youth program years before everybody else did. And can tell our listeners about that, if you would.
Yeah. We strive ourselves to push our youth kids to do stuff and them to treat the association like we're going to want them to treat it when we're long gone. We've really worked hard to make sure that they have all the prizes and stuff at the World Show that are really good. And I'm going to tell you, these youth kids, they really work hard, and we're getting a lot more youth coming into the association. And we're striving just to promote our youth in a large way as much as we can, as I think most associations are trying to now, because there's so many different things for horse kids to be doing besides showing horses. They can, between all the athletics and everything else, I can see it's been a little tough to get the kids to the horse show, but we're still working on that, and we're still pretty much thriving in that end of our horse showing, for sure, Merle. And I mean, we've all seen it growing up and things, and that's a big thing to me. Is of course, I grew up showing horses from the time I was 5 years old, and I grew up with a horse show family that I spent more time gone from the house on the weekends than anything. And I think it's a good atmosphere for these youth kids to grow up in and to learn how to work and strive for something to actually get out there and work and strive to win some classes and do some things. And just that work ethic is a crazy thing that I grew up with, especially, and I want those guys to have that same thought process too, as far as our youth go.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking to Gene Ray Stewart, performance horse professional trainer. He's also an all-around stock horse training guy and president of the PHBA Palomino Horse Breeders Association. I'll get it out, Merle. I won't stumble on that one next time. But hey, you know what, Gene? I really appreciate you going through this. But, just for our families that want to go to these type of programs and go to these shows, how about some horse tips on things? You've been doing this for a very long time. What are some of the things that families should look out for when I'm going to bring my child or want to go in there for the very first time? What type of training should I go through, and what type of advice would you like to give them?
Well, I definitely would really give them the advice to start out with is to tap into our professional horsemen's crew. We have a great crew that is on our website that they could tap into their professional that is close to them to get started coming to the shows. The big thing is to if say it's a very beginner person, they need to know that to be out there with a professional maybe a little bit to get the right horses in their barn, and then work with that individual or other individuals as well. I will say this: we are probably the only one of the only associations that I know of that a youth kid or youth person could ride any horse at the show. They do not have to own their own horse. And
really,
that's pretty unique. And I mean, I know Merle and me over the years have used that a bunch, and we're still doing that, aren't we, Bud? And
it's a great way to get them kids started. That's sometimes they can't afford the horse, or sometimes their parents don't want to make the initial investment. So that's a really unique thing to PHBA. Hey, Gene Ray, we got one of the big shows. I know you and I have both been there a lot of years, is the Color Breed Congress coming up. And the special thing about this year's Color Breed Congress is the first year that the Go for the Gold futurity, which is originally a PHBA futurity, is at the Go for the Gold. Can you tell our Better Horses listeners about the Go for the Gold futurity and what the importance of it means to Color Breed Congress?
Well, the Go for the Gold futurity has always been right there, based out of Claremore, Oklahoma, which is Oklahoma Palomino, and used to do it all the time. And they've had struggled over the years, and actually had gone and taken it. It's going to be in Tulsa this year, like Merle said, at the Color Breed Congress. And it is a program of breeders and studs that the stud owners nominate, and of course you can go and breed to one of these studs, and then you would have a foal eligible for the many numerous classes as far as halter, lunge line, maybe 2 and 3 year old pleasure and hunter or saddle stuff.
And a ranch rail. There's a ranch rail this year too.
It's been around for, I don't know, forever as well too, Merle, and it's always been a really, really big deal. And I'm hoping that they can it's kind of get a little life again, and with being at the Color Breed Congress, and hope to see a lot of good babies and stuff as far as that program is going forward for sure.
Gene, we can't thank you enough for joining Better Horses. And for those that are just joining us, that's Gene Ray Stewart, Performance Horses. He's located right there at the Palomino Horse Breeders Association, president of the PHBA. Gene, want to thank you for joining us. And if they wanted to get more information on the Palomino website, can you give us that website?
Yes, it's phba.com, and it just you just tap in PHBA on your Google Drive, and it's going to take you right to where you need to be. And I will tell you, we put some new and exciting things up on the website even in the last 2 days. We have our convention coming up the 5th through the 8th of March of this next year, and got some stuff going on there. We got some entertainment going to be at that deal, and also we will be rolling out a new website, a new updated website here in the next 5 to 6 months, and that everybody will hopefully even enjoy more, for sure.
And thank you, Gene. I really appreciate you joining us. That's a professional trainer, Gene Ray Stewart. He is also president of the Palomino Breeders' Horse Association. As he said, phba.com is where you can get all that information. And you know what's great about these presidencies, that of all these associations, Merle, is that he's also a professional trainer. So that is really putting a whole new set of criteria in putting these events on.
Sure. And I think it's important to note to our Better Horses listeners that these aren't usually paid positions. So a lot of this is volunteer hours, and to get to be president, you probably had to volunteer the most hours,
As we appreciated Rodney Glenn, president of the BFA World Championship, for joining our show. And that's it. We're going to take a wrap up from here. And I tell you what, we want to appreciate everybody for listening to our show and our radio show. But if you happen to miss it, or if you'd like to hear it again, we also have a podcast. Merle, I don't know if you knew we had a podcast, but we can just search Better Horses wherever you get your podcast.
Well, we want to thank all our listeners too. We appreciate all the great questions and all the views and the likes and the interesting things they have to say. So I also want to tell them, don't forget about our Better Horses newspaper. The fall edition is coming out, and it's going to have a full schedule of classes for the Color Breed Congress. And so don't miss that.
Yeah, they're going to be our sponsor. They'll take the front of it, and we'll have all their classes listed on our show, rephrase, listed on our newspaper, and that's coming out in mid-October. And also, if you want to subscribe to Better Horses newspaper, you can just check us out at betterhorses.com. Don't forget about our TV show on RFD and the Cowboy Channel, also streamlining on Equus TV.
And Ed, I'd like to give a special thanks to our team behind the scenes, our radio producer, Brianna Johnson, and our TV producer, Kelly Creech, and of course, all of our sponsors.
And that's right. And that naturally wraps us up for the week. We want to thank you for joining us. But more importantly, we want you to be all good buckaroos and buckarettes. Mind your mom and dads and be brave, but don't take any chances out there. Until next time, I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Merle Arbo.
Happy trails, and always ride for the brand.